Jake Morrison stared at the broken screens in what used to be Luna Command. 3 months ago, this place buzzed with activity. Now it was just twisted metal and dead computers. The Zephyrian Empire had won. Everyone knew it. Everyone except Jake. The alien broadcast played on the one working monitor. The creatures looked like walking crystals with too many arms. Their leader spoke in perfect English, his voice cold and mechanical. The human species has surrendered. Your worlds now belong to the Zephyrian Empire. Submit and you will be relocated to work facilities. Resist and you will be eliminated. Lisa Rodriguez walked into the ruined command center. Her uniform was dirty and torn. She had been Jake's communications officer for 5 years. Now she was one of the few humans left on the moon. "Sir, we got another message from the outer colonies," she said. "The Zephyrians hit New Dallas yesterday. They're moving all the people to processing centers." Jake nodded but kept watching the alien broadcast. The Zephyrians were proud warriors. They had conquered hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. To them, humans were just another weak species that gave up after one big battle. "What about the other bases?" Jake asked. "Most went quiet after Titan's Gate. But we're getting signals. From a few. Captain Ryan Brooks on Kepler 442b is still active. So is Colonel Danny Wright on the asteroid base near Jupiter." Jake smiled for the first time in months. They didn't surrender either. The Battle of Titan's Gate had been a massacre. Earth's combined fleets faced the Zephyrian Armada near Saturn. The aliens had better ships, better weapons, and better shields. The human fleet was destroyed in 6 hours. Jake had watched it happen from Luna Command. He saw friends die. He saw hope die. But some humans survived. Some refused to give up. Day 2. "Me a secure channel to Brooks and Wright," Jake ordered. While Lisa worked on communications, Jake walked to the observation deck. Earth hung in space below them, blue and green and beautiful. Zephyrian ships surrounded the planet like metal insects. They had landing platforms in every major city. Their crystal soldiers walked human streets like they owned them. The aliens thought they understood humans. They had studied Earth for years before attacking. They knew about human wars, human governments, human military tactics, but they missed something important. They didn't understand what humans do when they have nothing left to lose. "I have Captain Brooks on the line," Lisa called. Jake returned to the command center. Ryan Brooks appeared on the screen. His face was hard and angry. Behind him, Jake could see the underground base that Brooks had built in secret. "Admiral Morrison," Brooks said. "Good to see you're still alive." "The Zephyrians think we're finished," Jake replied. "They're wrong. My thoughts exactly. I've been in contact with 12 other bases, all hidden, all ready to fight." "What about supplies? Weapons?" Brooks grinned. "We've been busy. Salvaged everything we could from the wrecked ships, captured some alien tech too. And we found something interesting about our new masters." Before Brooks could explain, another face appeared on screen. Danny Wright looked tired, but determined. "Admiral Colonel Wright here. Are we starting a resistance?" "We never stopped fighting," Jake said. "The Zephyrians just don't know it yet." Over the next hour, Jake learned about the scattered human forces, small groups hidden in asteroid bases, underground bunkers, and remote outposts. The aliens thought they had won because Earth's government surrendered. They didn't realize that many humans never accepted that surrender. Lisa brought more news. "Sir, we just intercepted a Zephyrian transmission. They're planning something called deep integration for the human population." "What does that mean?" "Unknown. But they mentioned biological compatibility tests." Jake felt cold. The Zephyrians weren't just conquering humans. They were planning something worse. Dr. Elena Vasquez had been hiding in the ruins of Research Station Omega for 3 months. The station orbited a dead planet in the outer system. The Zephyrians had bombed it during their first attack, but Elena survived in the deep labs. She was a xenobiologist. Before the war, she studied alien life forms. Now she studied the aliens, who wanted to destroy humanity. She had captured Zephyrian blood samples, tissue samples, even a few dead bodies from the attack. What she found made her sick. The Zephyrians weren't just warriors. They were dying. Their crystal bodies needed a rare element called ziridium to survive. Without it, they would crumble to dust. Elena's tests showed that most Zephyrian soldiers were already starting to decay. They were mining ziridium from conquered worlds, but it wasn't enough. They needed something else, something biological. Elena looked at the DNA scans on her computer. Zephyrian genetic code was breaking down. They had maybe 50 years before their entire species went extinct. Unless they found a way to fix their genes. Human DNA might be that fix. Elena activated her emergency transmitter. She had to warn the resistance. The Zephyrians weren't just conquering humans. They were planning to use human biology to save their own dying race. Back on Luna, Jake received Elena's transmission. The news was worse than he imagined. The aliens didn't just want human worlds, they wanted human bodies. "Admiral," Lisa said quietly, "if this is true, then surrender was never an option. They were always going to kill us all." Jake stared at the Zephyrian broadcast still playing on the monitor. The crystal alien repeated his message about human submission. But now Jake heard the lie behind the words. There would be no work camps, no peaceful integration, just death and genetic harvesting. He activated the Resistance communication network. Faces appeared on screen from hidden bases across the solar system. Ryan Brooks, Danny Wright, and others. Humans who refused to surrender. "Listen carefully," Jake said. The Zephyrians didn't just declare victory over humanity. They declared our extinction. But they made one mistake. They let some of us live. The faces on screen were grim but determined. These were soldiers, scientists, and survivors. They had lost everything but not their will to fight. "What are our orders, Admiral?" Brooks asked. Jake looked at Earth hanging in space. Billions of humans lived down there under alien occupation. They believed the war was over. They believed surrender would save them. They were wrong. "We're going to show the Zephyrian Empire something they've never seen before," Jake said. "A species that fights back from extinction. They think they've won. But the real war is just starting." The Resistance was born in that moment, small, hidden, and angry. The Zephyrians had conquered 847 species across the galaxy. They thought humans would be number 848. They were about to learn why humans were different. 6 months had passed since the Zephyrian victory. Governor General Kethmore stood on the balcony of his new palace in what used to be New York City. Below him, human workers built monuments to Zephyrian glory. The crystal alien felt satisfied. Another species had been properly integrated into the empire. The humans had been surprisingly easy to control. After their government surrendered, most of the population accepted their new rulers. They worked in the factories, farmed the land, and served their Zephyrian masters without complaint. It was the same pattern Kethmore had seen on 847 other worlds. "Sir," his aide approached. "The monthly production reports." Kethmore reviewed the numbers. Human mining operations were exceeding expectations. The biological research facilities were making good progress. Everything was going according to plan. What Kethmore didn't know was that Colonel Danny Wright was watching him through a telescope from an abandoned building 12 blocks away. Danny had been studying the aliens for months from his hidden bases. He had learned things that would change everything. "Target acquired," Danny whispered into his communicator. "The big crystal bug is right there. One shot and their whole operation here falls apart." "Negative," came Jake Morrison's voice. "We need him alive. Keep watching and learning." Danny lowered his rifle. He didn't like it, but Jake was right. Killing one governor wouldn't stop the Zephyrians. They needed to understand their enemy first. In the asteroid belt, Colonel Wright's main base was a marvel of human engineering. Built inside a hollowed-out rock, it contained laboratories, weapon shops, and living quarters for 300 survivors. Danny had been collecting alien technology since the first week of occupation. The captured Zephyrian equipment told a disturbing story. Their ships were impressive but old. Their weapons were powerful but running low on energy. Most shocking of all, their army was smaller than anyone realized. "Look at this." Danny showed his team the analysis. The Zephyrians have maybe 50,000 real soldiers in our entire solar system. The rest are drones or slaves from other conquered species. Lieutenant Amy Parker studied the data. That's impossible. They conquered hundreds of worlds. They did it the same way every time. Massive first strike to break the enemy fleet, psychological warfare to make the population surrender. Then they used the conquered species to police themselves. Amy understood. So most of the guards on Earth aren't even Zephyrians. Exactly. Humans captured in the early attacks, forced to work for the aliens. Other species from previous conquests. The crystal bugs just give orders from the top. This information spread through the resistance network. Hidden bases across the solar system began planning differently. Instead of targeting heavily defended Zephyrian positions, they focused on the weak points in alien control. Dr. Elena Vasquez had made her own discoveries in the ruins of Research Station Omega. The Zephyrian corpses she studied revealed the truth about their species. They were ancient, maybe millions of years old, but they were dying. The crystal structure that formed their bodies required constant maintenance. Without Zeridium, they would literally fall apart. Elena's tests showed that most Zephyrians were already showing signs of decay. Cracks in their crystal skin, weak joints, failing organs. But that wasn't the worst part. Elena found evidence that the Zephyrians had been kidnapping members of conquered species for genetic experiments. They were trying to combine alien DNA with their own crystal structure to create a hybrid species that could survive without Zeridium. The experiments had failed on 847 different species. Human DNA was their last hope. Elena sent her findings to the resistance leadership. The response was immediate and angry. The aliens weren't just occupying human worlds. They were farming human beings for their genetic material. Major Amy Parker led the mission to Processing Center 7. Intelligence suggested it was a standard work camp where humans performed manual labor for their alien masters. The reality was much worse. Amy and her team approached the facility at night. It looked like a normal prison camp from the outside. Guard towers, electric fences, and barracks for human workers. But the underground levels told a different story. "My God," whispered Sergeant Tony Clark as they infiltrated the lower levels. "What is this place?" The underground laboratory was a nightmare. Human prisoners were strapped to tables while Zephyrian scientists extracted blood, tissue, and bone marrow. Computer screens showed genetic sequences being mixed and tested. Failed experiments were dumped in mass graves. Amy recorded everything, with her camera. The resistance needed proof of what the aliens were really doing. But first, they needed to save as many prisoners as possible. The rescue operation was swift and brutal. Amy's team eliminated the guards and freed over 200 human prisoners. But the evidence they found was more valuable than the lives they saved. The Zephyrians weren't just experimenting on humans. They had detailed files on every species they had conquered. Each alien race had been studied, harvested, and eventually eliminated when their genetic material proved incompatible. 11 species, all extinct now except for the few individuals kept alive in laboratories for continued testing. Lieutenant Commander Paul Anderson intercepted the most important transmission of the war. Hidden in a Zephyrian communication satellite, his team found the complete plan for humanity's future. Operation Final Integration was scheduled to begin in 18 months. Every human would be processed through genetic facilities. The strong would be kept alive for continued harvesting. The weak would be eliminated immediately. The Zephyrian scientists estimated they could extend their species' survival by 300 years using human DNA. After that, humanity would join the other 847 species in extinction. Paul transmitted this information to resistance cells throughout the solar system. The reaction was immediate. Hidden bases began emergency preparations. Weapons production increased. Training intensified. But the most important change was in the hearts of the human survivors. Before, they had been fighting to free Earth from occupation. Now they understood they were fighting to prevent the complete extinction of their species. Morrison called an emergency meeting of resistance leaders. Faces appeared on screens from hidden bases across the solar system. The mood was dark. "We all know what we're facing now," Jake said. "The Zephyrians don't want to rule us. They want to harvest us and then eliminate us completely." Ryan Brooks spoke from his base on Kepler 442b. "My intelligence confirms it. They've done this 847 times before. We're next on the list." Danny Wright added his analysis. "The good news is that they're weaker than we thought. Fewer real soldiers, older equipment, and they're literally dying of old age. That doesn't matter if they complete their genetic harvesting program," Elena Vasquez said from her hidden laboratory. "They only need 18 more months to perfect the process." Amy. Parker shared the footage from Processing Center 7. The images were horrific. Human beings treated like laboratory animals. Genetic material extracted while the prisoners were still conscious. "This is what surrender got us," Amy said quietly. "This is what cooperation with the aliens means." The resistance leaders looked at each other through their screens. They had all lost friends and family to the Zephyrians. They had all suffered under alien occupation. But now they understood the true scope of their enemy's plan. "So what do we do?" asked Colonel Wright. Jake Morrison looked at the faces of his fellow survivors. These were good people who had been pushed beyond their limits. They had tried to be civilized. They had hoped for peace. They had believed in mercy and human decency. The Zephyrians had made those virtues into weaknesses. "We're going to teach them why you don't try to extinct humanity," Jake said. "We're going to show them what humans become when their survival is threatened." The resistance had been born from desperation. Now it would be forged by fury. The Zephyrians thought they understood human nature. They were about to learn they were wrong. The real war was about to begin. General Kate Sullivan had been dead for 8 months. At least that's what everyone believed. The Zephyrians had destroyed the Mars defense grid and killed its commanding officer. But Kate survived the attack by hiding in the underground bunkers beneath Olympus Base. Now she emerged from hiding with a simple message for the scattered resistance cells. It was time to unite. "This is General Sullivan to all resistance forces," she broadcast from a hidden transmitter. "I'm taking command of all human military operations. If you want to save our species, you'll follow my orders." The response was immediate. Hidden bases across the solar system acknowledged her authority. Kate had been Earth's finest military strategist before the invasion. If anyone could organize effective resistance, it was her. Her first order changed everything. No more defensive operations. No more rescue missions. We're going to war. Captain Nick Thompson received his new orders while hiding in the ruins of Chicago. His team had been conducting small sabotage operations against Zephyrian supply lines. Now Kate wanted something bigger. "Thompson, I need you to hit their main fuel depot in the North American sector." Kate's voice crackled through his communicator. "Complete destruction. No survivors." Nick looked at his team. They were good soldiers, but this was different. From their previous missions, Kate was talking about total warfare. "General, that depot is guarded by human collaborators, former Earth Defense Force personnel. They made their choice when they decided to help the aliens harvest our people. Eliminate them." Nick felt cold. The resistance had changed. They weren't trying to liberate Earth anymore. They were trying to save humanity by any means necessary. The attack on the fuel depot was swift and brutal. Nick's team moved through the facility like ghosts. Human guards who had once served alongside them were eliminated without warning. Zephyrian overseers died in explosions that left nothing but crystal fragments. When it was over, the depot burned for 3 days. The Zephyrians lost enough fuel to power their operations for 2 months. Sergeant Maria Gonzalez led a different kind of operation in what used to be Mexico City. Instead of attacking alien facilities, she was organizing the human population for uprising. "Listen to me," she told the crowd of workers gathered in secret. "The aliens aren't here to rule us. They're here to kill us all. Every man, woman, and child." She showed them the footage that Amy Parker had recorded at Processing Center 7. The crowd watched in horror as human prisoners were dissected alive for their genetic material. "This is what cooperation gets us," Maria said. This is what happens to good people who follow alien orders. The uprising began at dawn. Thousands of human workers throughout the city stopped reporting to their jobs. Instead, they attacked Zephyrian facilities with improvised weapons. Most died in the first hour, but they took many aliens with them. The Zephyrians had never faced anything like it. On 847 previous worlds, conquered populations had remained peaceful after surrender. They worked for their alien masters and hoped for mercy. Humans were different. When they learned the truth about their fate, they chose to fight rather than submit to slow death. Dr. Elena Vasquez worked around the clock in her hidden laboratory. General Sullivan had given her a new mission: develop weapons that could kill Zephyrians more effectively than conventional arms. The solution came from studying their biology. Zephyrian crystal bodies were held together by complex chemical bonds. Elena discovered that certain acids could dissolve those bonds, causing the aliens to literally fall apart. She created small grenades filled with her new acid compound. When thrown at Zephyrian soldiers, the weapons didn't just kill them, they melted them into puddles of broken crystal. Testing complete, Elena reported to Kate Sullivan. The compound is effective against all Zephyrian life forms. Mass production can begin immediately. Commander Ben Foster had always been good with technology. Before the war, he designed communication systems for the Earth Defense Force. Now he worked on reverse engineering captured alien equipment. The breakthrough came when he cracked the encryption on a Zephyrian command module. Suddenly, the Resistance could intercept alien communications, track their ship movements, and even hack into their computer systems. General Sullivan, Ben reported, I've accessed their central database. You need to see this. The files Ben discovered were horrifying. Detailed records of 847 conquered species. Each one had followed the same pattern: defeat, surrender, cooperation, genetic harvesting, and finally extinction. But the files also revealed something else. The Zephyrians kept detailed records of their own population. Their species was dying, faster than anyone realized. They had maybe 20 years before complete extinction. The genetic harvesting program was their last desperate attempt to survive. Colonel Danny Wright coordinated the largest resistance operation to date. Intelligence from Ben Foster had revealed the location of a major Zephyrian research facility on the moon Europa. The facility contained genetic samples from hundreds of species, including thousands of human prisoners. This is it, Danny told his strike team. We hit them hard and fast. No mercy, no prisoners. The assault on Europa was the first time the Resistance had attacked a major alien installation. Danny's forces used Elena's acid weapons, Nick's sabotage techniques, and Ben's hacked alien technology. The battle was brutal. Zephyrian soldiers fought with desperate fury, knowing they were defending their species' future. But the humans fought with something the aliens had never encountered: the rage of a people facing extinction. When the facility fell, Danny's team found rooms full of genetic samples from dead civilizations. Thousands of species that had once lived and breathed were reduced to frozen tissue in storage containers. They also found something else: research files showing that the Zephyrians had tried to create hybrid soldiers using human DNA. The experiments had been partially successful. General Sullivan, Danny reported, they're not just harvesting us for survival. They're trying to create super soldiers with human adaptability and Zephyrian technology. Kate received the report while planning the next phase of operations. The Resistance was growing stronger every day. Hidden bases were expanding. Weapon production was increasing. Human populations on occupied worlds were beginning to fight back. But the Zephyrians were adapting too. They had increased security around their installations. They were using more brutal methods to control human workers, and they were accelerating their genetic harvesting program. Commander Foster, Kate ordered, I need complete intelligence on every Zephyrian installation in the solar system. Military bases, research facilities, breeding centers, everything. Already working on it, General. But what are you planning? Kate looked at the tactical displays showing Zephyrian positions throughout human space. The aliens controlled the major population centers, but the Resistance held the outer systems. It was time to change that balance. I'm planning to give them A war they'll never forget, Kate said. The Resistance had learned important lessons from studying their enemy. The Zephyrians were warriors, but they fought by rules. They expected formal battles, clear objectives, and eventual surrender by defeated enemies. Humans didn't follow those rules. They attacked supply lines instead of military bases. They turned civilian populations into weapons. They used biological warfare, sabotage, and assassination. Most importantly, they refused to surrender even when facing impossible odds. High Commander Zarthek reviewed the reports from occupied human worlds. With growing concern, resistance activity was increasing across all sectors. Human workers were becoming unreliable. Several facilities had been completely destroyed. This had never happened before. In 847 previous conquests, defeated species had remained peaceful after surrender. They might grumble or complain, but they didn't organize effective military resistance. "Sir," his aide reported, "we've intercepted human communications. They know about the genetic harvesting program." Zarthek felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: concern. The humans had discovered the truth about their fate. That changed everything. "Increase security at all research facilities," he ordered. "Accelerate the harvesting schedule, and prepare for total war." The aide hesitated. "Sir, are you sure that's wise? Total war against a primitive species?" Zarthek looked at the latest casualty reports. The humans had killed more Zephyrians in 8 months than some species had managed in entire wars. "These aren't primitive beings," he said quietly. "They're something else. Something we've never encountered before. For the first time in Zephyrian history, a conquered species was fighting back effectively. The empire that had ruled the galaxy for millennia was facing an enemy that refused to be conquered. The war was about to escalate beyond anything either side had imagined. High Commander Zarthek stood before the Zephyrian High Council in their crystal chamber on the homeworld. The ancient beings who ruled the empire listened as he delivered the worst news in their species' history. "The humans have become a threat to our survival," Zarthek reported. "They've destroyed 17 research facilities, killed over 3,000 of our people, and turned their entire species into a military force." Council leader Vexthar, oldest of the Zephyrians, spoke with a voice like grinding stone. "In our conquest of 847 worlds, no species has ever mounted effective resistance after surrender. What makes these humans different? They don't fight to win territory or negotiate better treatment," Zarthek explained. "They fight to completely eliminate us. Their goal isn't victory, it's our extinction." The council chamber fell silent. For millions of years, the Zephyrians had been the ones who determined which species lived or died. Now they faced an enemy with the same mindset. "Then we will show them what extinction truly means," Vexthar declared. "Deploy the planet killers, sterilize every human world, accept the loss of genetic material to eliminate the threat." On Earth, billions of humans went about their daily lives unaware that their death sentence had just been signed. They worked in alien factories, farmed alien-controlled land, and hoped that cooperation would ensure their survival. But Admiral Jake Morrison knew better. Hidden sensors throughout the solar system detected massive energy signatures moving toward human worlds. The Zephyrians had stopped pretending to be merciful occupiers. "All resistance cells, emergency alert," Jake broadcast from Luna Command. "The aliens are bringing planet-killer weapons. They're planning to destroy Earth, Mars, and every major colony world." The response from resistance leaders was immediate and furious. General Kate Sullivan coordinated from her hidden base on Mars. "How long do we have?" 72 hours until the first weapons reach Earth," Jake replied. "Maybe less." Ben Foster worked frantically to hack into more Zephyrian systems. What he found confirmed their worst fears. The aliens weren't just planning to destroy the major worlds. They intended to sterilize every planet, moon, and asteroid where humans might be hiding. "It's complete genocide," Ben reported. "They're going to kill every human in the galaxy." Kate Sullivan made the hardest decision in human history. She activated emergency protocols that had never been used before. Signals went out to every resistance cell, every hidden base, every surviving human military unit. "This is General Sullivan with Priority Alpha orders," she broadcast. "The Zephyrians have chosen total war, so have we. All restrictions are lifted. All rules of engagement are cancelled. Kill every alien you can find. Show no mercy. Take no prisoners." Captain Amy Parker received the orders while leading an assault on a Zephyrian command center. Her team had been trying to minimize civilian casualties and capture alien technology intact. Now the mission changed. "You heard the general," Amy told her soldiers. "No more playing nice. These crystal bugs want to extinct our entire species. Time to return the favor." The assault became a massacre. Amy's team used Elena's acid weapons to dissolve Zephyrian soldiers alive. They executed captured aliens without hesitation. When they found human collaborators helping the enemy, those traitors died too. But the most shocking moment came when Amy discovered a nursery full of young Zephyrians. Crystal beings barely larger than human children, their bodies not yet fully formed. "Captain?" one of her soldiers asked. "What do we do with these?" Amy looked at the young aliens. Before the war, the thought of harming children would have sickened her. Now she remembered the human children she had found dead in processing center 7, kids who had been dissected while still alive for their genetic material. "Elena's acid works on all Zephyrian life forms," Amy said quietly. "All of them." The nursery became silent. Dr. Elena Vasquez completed her most terrible creation in the hidden laboratory on Research Station Omega. The biological weapon was elegant in its simplicity, a virus specifically designed to target Zephyrian DNA. Once released, it would spread through their crystal bodies like acid through stone. "It's ready," she reported to Jake Morrison. "But Admiral, this isn't just a weapon. It's a species killer. Once deployed, every Zephyrian in the galaxy will die within weeks." "Good," Jake replied without hesitation. "Deploy it." Elena hesitated. Before the war, she had been a scientist who studied life to preserve it. Now she was creating death on a scale that had never been seen before. "Admiral, are you sure about this? We're talking about genocide." "They chose genocide first," Jake said coldly. "We're just better at it than they are." Commander Danny Wright led the assault on the Zephyrian homeworld's outer defenses. His fleet of captured and modified alien ships moved through space like predators. The Zephyrians had never faced an enemy that used their own technology against them. "Target their breeding facilities first," Danny ordered. "No future generations. No species survival." The battle was unlike anything in galactic history. Human ships built from scavenged alien technology and human innovation tore through Zephyrian defenses. But these weren't normal military targets. The humans were specifically hunting civilian populations. Danny's fleet bombarded crystal cities full of non-combatant aliens. They destroyed nurseries, hospitals, and schools. When Zephyrian commanders tried to surrender, the humans ignored them and continued the attack. "Sir, we're receiving surrender signals from the planet," Danny's communications officer reported. "Ignore them," Danny replied. "They didn't accept our surrender. Why should we accept theirs?" Captain Nick Thompson infiltrated a Zephyrian research station that held the genetic samples of all 847 conquered species. His mission was to steal the data and destroy the facility. But when he saw the extent of alien crimes, his objectives changed. The station contained the DNA of entire civilizations, species that had lived for millions of years, reduced to frozen samples in storage containers. Each one had been harvested to extinction in the Zephyrians' desperate attempt to save themselves. "This ends here," Nick told his team. "We destroy it all. Every sample, every record, every trace of what they did." The explosion that consumed the research station was visible from orbit. Millions of years of genetic diversity vanished in an instant. The Zephyrians' backup plan for species survival died with it, but Nick found something else in the facility's computers: coordinates for every Zephyrian world, breeding center, and population hub in the galaxy. The complete map of their civilization. He transmitted the data to General Sullivan immediately. Kate received Nick's intelligence while coordinating the final phase of human operations. The resistance had grown into something far beyond a military force. It had become a species-wide killing, machine focused on one goal: the complete elimination of Zephyrian life. All units, priority targets updated, Kate broadcast. We now have locations for every alien population center. Begin systematic extermination protocols. Human ships spread throughout Zephyrian space like a plague. They weren't conquering worlds or capturing territory. They were sterilizing entire systems. Elena's biological weapon preceded the fleets, killing alien populations before the ships even arrived. The Zephyrians tried to fight back, but they were no longer facing the species they had conquered a year earlier. These humans had learned warfare from the masters of genocide. They had become more efficient killers than their teachers. Admiral Morrison watched from Luna Command as the reports came in. Zephyrian world after Zephyrian world went silent. Their ancient empire, which had lasted for millions of years, was being erased from existence. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez reported, "We're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian High Commander. He wants to negotiate." Jake looked at the communication request. High Commander Zarthek, the alien who had declared victory over humanity, now wanted to talk about peace. "Put him through," Jake ordered. Zarthek appeared on screen, his crystal body showing cracks and decay. The biological weapon was already working on him. "Admiral Morrison," the alien said, his voice weak, "we offer complete withdrawal from human space. We will return your worlds and people. Please, call off your forces." Jake studied the dying alien. "Commander, a year ago this being had seemed like an unstoppable force. Now he was begging for mercy from the species he had tried to extinct." "You declared victory over humanity," Jake said quietly. "You planned to harvest us like animals and leave us extinct. Did you really think we would just let that happen?" "We made a mistake," Zarthek pleaded. "Your species is more dangerous than we realized. We can coexist. We can find another way." Jake looked at Earth hanging in space below Luna Command. Billions of humans lived there, unaware of how close they had come to extinction. They deserved to live without fear of alien harvest programs. "There is another way," Jake agreed. "A galaxy where no species will ever again face what you planned." "For us, yes," Zarthek said desperately. "We can work together." "No," Jake replied. "A galaxy where you no longer exist." The transmission ended. Jake turned to his officers. "Continue all operations. No survivors." The Zephyrian Empire had declared victory over humanity. Now humanity was declaring something far more final. Not victory, but extinction. Complete and absolute extinction. The crystal spires of the Zephyrian homeworld burned against the night sky. Captain Amy Parker stood in what used to be their capital city and watched the last alien civilization in the galaxy die around her. Elena's biological weapon had done its work perfectly. Every Zephyrian on the planet was dead or dying. Their crystal bodies lay in the streets like broken glass, dissolved from the inside by the virus that humans had created specifically to kill them. "Final report from Sector 7, Amy spoke into her communicator. "No survivors detected. The homeworld is sterilized." Similar reports came from across the galaxy. Human fleets had visited every Zephyrian world, every colony, every outpost. The ancient empire that had lasted for millions of years was extinct. Gone so completely that future archaeologists would need advanced equipment just to prove they had ever existed. High Commander Zarthek died alone in his command bunker, his crystal body crumbling to dust as the human virus consumed him. His last thoughts were of the 847 species his people had conquered and absorbed. Now he understood how they had felt in their final moments. Admiral Jake Morrison received the final transmission from the Zephyrian homeworld. The voice was weak, barely audible through the static. "This is Science Commander Nextall, last survivor of Research Station Prime." The alien gasped. "I have an offer for your species." Jake almost cut the transmission, but curiosity made him listen. "We have the genetic codes for all 847 species we conquered," Nextall continued. "We can recreate them. Bring back entire civilizations from extinction. The knowledge dies with me unless you preserve it." Jake considered the offer for exactly 3 seconds. "Let it die with you." The transmission ended. The last Zephyrian scientist died with the secrets that could have restored hundreds of civilizations. Jake felt no regret. Those species had been extinct for centuries. Nothing could bring them back. Now. But humanity would ensure that no other species ever suffered the same fate. General Kate Sullivan stood before the assembled leaders of the remaining galactic civilizations. Representatives from dozens of worlds had gathered on the neutral space station Harmony Point to discuss the new reality. The meeting was supposed to be about trade agreements and territorial disputes. Instead, it became a lesson in what happened when someone tried to extinct humanity. The Zephyrian Empire no longer exists, Kate announced to the assembled aliens. Their worlds are empty. Their fleets are destroyed. Their species is extinct. The alien representatives shifted nervously in their seats. Many of their civilizations were older and more advanced than humanity. But none of them had ever eliminated an entire galactic empire in less than 2 years. Ambassador Tulvex of the Andromedan Federation spoke first. General Sullivan, the Zephyrians were a threat to all free species. We are grateful for your actions. We didn't do it for you, Kate replied coldly. We did it because they tried to kill us all. But while you're here, let me make something clear to everyone in this room. She activated a holographic display showing the dead Zephyrian worlds. Barren planets where advanced civilizations had once thrived. Now they were lifeless rocks, orbiting dead stars. This is what happens when someone threatens human survival, Kate continued. The Zephyrians thought they understood warfare. They had conquered 847 species. They ruled half the galaxy. They considered themselves the ultimate predators. The alien ambassadors watched the images in silence. Some of their species had fought wars with the Zephyrians and lost. They knew how powerful the Crystal Empire had been. But they made one critical mistake, Kate said. They assumed we would react like the other species they had conquered. They expected us to surrender, cooperate, and hope for mercy. She changed the display to show human resistance operations, the systematic destruction of Zephyrian facilities, the deployment of species-specific biological weapons, the complete erasure of alien civilization. Instead, we became something worse than they were. When faced with extinction, humans don't just fight back. We eliminate the threat so completely that it can never threaten anyone again. Ambassador Korthon of the Centauri Alliance raised a tentacle nervously. General, are you threatening us? Kate smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I'm educating you. The galaxy has new rules now. Humanity is not interested in conquest or empire building. We want to be left alone to develop our civilization in peace. And if we leave you alone? Asked Ambassador Ziltek from the Outer. Rim Coalition. Then we'll be the best neighbors you could ask for. We'll trade fairly, share technology, and help defend against common threats. Humans can be incredibly generous and cooperative when we're not fighting for our lives. Kate paused to let that sink in, then continued. But if anyone ever again tries what the Zephyrians attempted, if any species decides that humanity should be conquered, enslaved, or extinct, then you'll learn why there are no more Zephyrians in this galaxy. The meeting ended in uncomfortable silence. The alien representatives left with a clear understanding. Humans were either the best allies or the worst enemies anyone could have. The choice was up to them. Dr. Elena Vasquez worked alone in her new laboratory on Earth. The war was over, but her research continued. She was developing new biological weapons, not for immediate use, but as insurance against future threats. How many species-specific viruses can we create? Jake Morrison asked during his visit to the lab. As many as we need, Elena replied. I have samples from most galactic civilizations. If anyone ever threatens us again, we can respond with targeted extinction weapons within weeks. Jake nodded approvingly. The galaxy needed to understand that attacking humanity carried consequences beyond imagination. But Elena had mixed feelings about her work. Before the war, she had been dedicated to preserving life. Now she was the galaxy's leading expert in destroying it. Admiral, do you ever wonder if we've become monsters? She asked. Jake looked at the Earth hanging outside the laboratory window. Billions of humans lived there safely because of the terrible things the Resistance had done. The Zephyrians made us into monsters, he replied, but we're monsters who protect our own species. That's something I can live with. Commander Ben Foster established humanity's new intelligence network across the galaxy. Hidden sensors monitored alien communications, tracking any mention of humans or Earth. The moment any species began planning aggressive action against humanity, Earth would know about it. Early warning is our best defense, Ben reported to the Human Defense Council. We'll never again be surprised by an alien invasion. The network also served another purpose. It reminded the galaxy that humans were watching. Any species that gathered large fleets or developed new weapons found their activities carefully monitored by human observers. Colonel Danny Wright commanded humanity's new rapid response fleets. Ships built with captured alien technology and improved with human innovation. They were faster, more heavily armed, and more advanced than anything else in the galaxy. Our standing orders are simple, Danny told his fleet commanders. Any threat to human worlds gets eliminated immediately and completely. No warnings, no negotiations, no mercy. The fleets patrolled the edges of human space like hunting packs. Several alien criminal organizations had learned the hard way that attacking human shipping was a fatal mistake. Their entire species hadn't been extinct, but their organizations had been wiped out so thoroughly that other criminals got the message. Years passed. The galaxy adapted to its new reality. Humanity controlled only a small portion of galactic space, but their influence was felt everywhere. They were the species that had made an entire galactic empire extinct in less than 2 years. Trade with humans was profitable and safe. They honored their agreements and protected their trading partners. But everyone knew the cost of betraying human trust. The dead Zephyrian world served as monuments to that cost. Tourism developed around visiting the empty planets where ancient civilizations had once thrived. Alien children learned about the species that had tried to harvest humanity and paid the ultimate price. Ambassador Sarah Williams addressed the Galactic Council on the 10th anniversary of the Zephyrian extinction. She spoke from the former Zephyrian homeworld, now a dead rock orbiting a cooling star. 10 years ago, the Zephyrian Empire controlled half this galaxy, Sarah said. They had conquered 847 species. They ruled for millions of years. They thought they were eternal. She gestured to the empty landscape around her. They made one mistake. They tried to extinct humanity. In response, we made them extinct instead, not just defeated, not just conquered, completely eliminated from existence. The message was broadcast across the galaxy. Every species heard it. Every government recorded it. Every military leader studied it. Humanity doesn't seek to rule other species, Sarah continued. We don't want your worlds or your resources. We want to be left alone to grow and develop in peace. In exchange, we offer friendship, trade, and protection against common threats. But remember the lesson of this dead world. Remember what happened to the species that tried to harvest us like animals. The Zephyrians declared victory over humanity. Humanity declared genocide in return. We were better at it than they were. Theo. Transmission ended. Across the galaxy, alien leaders looked at their military advisors and asked the same question. How do we make sure we never end up like the Zephyrians?